Marie mode and degrading them all. Like,
oh, that's so funny. I do like that she's taking on the Dom persona now.
Dude, it was so weird to watch. It was weird, yeah. Because it was like, there was definitely like a transitory phase, right? She started off as sort of like a, like she was almost like mommy posting with like the holistic health stuff. And then gradually it just became like open, like findom.
Yeah, now she's just findom.
Like it's just like blatant and open financial domination.
If you're going to be a girl online with a lot of followers and you're not findoming, it's like, what are you even doing? Like the whole point.
Well, so many of these people do get totally lost in just like the dopamine of it all.
Yeah.
And it is... But like, the dopamine is fun, don't get me wrong. And like there's a lot of people who, oh, Lucas, like you've totally gotten lost in the dopamine here. But like I would like to say that more than anything, I've gotten lost in the exploratory process of figuring out like what sort of keywords, what sort of subjects, like, okay, can we just viral clickbait tweet this? Okay, well, can we do like this sort of a long post? Will this piss people off? Will they even read this? Like I've just been having fun with the system. And
really, it's the creativity.
You can tell because I've now stopped viral bait posting because I literally got bored of it. Like
that's actually a really good point. He could be viral bait posting right now and be the next Andrew Tate if you think about it. You could have been blowing up.
Right, and like I've proved that I know how to do it. But that also means I've proved to myself that I know how to do it. And now that I know, it's like, okay, I don't need to like keep doing it because I don't necessarily find it intrinsically interesting. I found it interesting in the sense of like, can I actually do this? And can I consistently do this and replicate its effects? And now the results have been like, yes, you can.
That's a really good point. Yeah. So now we're here for the content. We're here for you guys, our Sigma Simps.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure. Dude, I'm not going to change it to symposium,
I've
but that's
gotten a little bit more. Everybody's been DMing me lately, like, "Oh, Lucas, you've become so much more genuine recently." And
like, bitch, I just stopped clickbaiting. I didn't do anything different.
Well, no, I definitely did turn up the. Because like before I like, oh, you're giving takes now. And it's like, well, there was always like the take hidden in everything that I said. But it was just a matter of like, do you know me well enough? And can you like mine through the layers here to figure what I'm saying, right? Because like very frequently the take would be the exact opposite of what I was like verbally espousing.
Yes.
Or like I would be like, okay, this is like a character that I'm playing, and the take is that this character needs to be killed.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it wasn't necessarily, oh, the person being represented in this tweet is like a good person.
Which is always funny to me when you got a ton of followers of people who were like the person in your tweet. It's like, I don't think you realize you're the joke here.
Yeah, yeah. No, they would just say like, oh, like I liked this because like I resonated with like the very first order. The repercussions of like what was being said, and it's like, well, I guess that's fine.
yeah. As long as you're here pressing like, that's all that really matters.
Yeah,
do your job.
I guess I don't know.
When you think any of them listen to our podcast?
Huh?
You think any of them listen? We have like 250 listeners, so it has to be maybe one.
Some of the people who don't get it.
Yeah.
The non-getters.
I'm
sure. I don't know. I'm always shocked. Like no matter who, like Asparagoid was the prime example of this one where like people would be following him for like 6 months or something as he would just post like ridiculous, totally polarized content up and down. Like one day he would post about like, oh, like women are awful and they should all be killed. And the next day he would say like, oh, men are awful and they should all be killed. And then he would say like, oh, penises are gross. And the next day he would be like, penises are so beautiful and I cry when I think about them. And like people would follow for months and months of this, like obviously like him just creative writing. And then one day they would see the content that was like personally applicable to themselves. And they would just have like a 15 tweet thread and
about inverted nipples. It was like
breaking down, saying like, "How could you fucking say this?" Like,
my
this
boyfriend loves
disgusting.
my inverted nipples.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
Yeah.
Why would you say something about?
It's like, how
dare you talk about them?
I love that also because it's so obvious when you have somebody who's like, this happens a lot with. Oh, I just hate to say this, but this happens a lot with fat girls, and you can tell. You go to their account, and there's a very specific subject group that fat girls talk about, right? Like, there's realistically like 4 or 5 subjects that if you go to a fat girl's timeline, almost all of her content is going to be about these specific things. And even if they're totally anon, you go to her profile and you see her talking about this stuff. It's like there is probably about a 97% chance that this is a fat girl.
What are you going to dox
like,
the the five. You
right.
dox the five thing that fat girls talk about.
There's one profile I'm thinking of specifically, though, who like did all of them so perfectly, and then somebody sent her profile to a group chat and said like, "There's no way this girl has a BMI under 35," and somebody somebody searched her name and then like fat. And they found like a massive thread about her just like coping over
being
like
fat.
Yeah, saying like, oh, like it's actually like racist to call people fat, and like all of this like like the standard like libtard talking points about like how it's evil and should be like a criminally executable offense for ever calling someone overweight or something like that.
It is very racist to say that it's racist to be fat, though. I will say that.
That's
so crazy to me.
That's such an insane
I know
cell
fat
phone.
people literally like fat is not race dependent. like if there's one thing that's certainly not race dependent, like I know fat people of every race. Like there's tons of fat people. This one, like sure, maybe if you go to certain demographics in different areas, like you can go. Well, black people get the fat stereotype, but also getting the emaciated stereotype from like Uganda. Imagine getting both of those simultaneously. You get fucking steamrolled for being fat and too skinny.
But it's like
simultaneously.
they never get hit with them both at the same time, though. Right?
No,
like,
I know it's definitely geography based. It's geography based.
There's like one person uniquely who spends like 6 months in America and 6 months in Uganda who experiences both of these stereotypes, but for the most part, like. Yeah. I think people mostly get hit with one or the other.
Yeah, you usually get one or the other for sure. But it's very funny that. But yeah, I think fat is geography. It's not a racial thing, and I think it's very clearly a geography thing. I think it's like for example, you take fucking a fat demographic of the U.S. and you go to Sweden, they're not fat. I promise. There's no fat fucking what do you call it? Like you know what I mean? You get the same.
What's kind of crazy is like Asians are never fat anywhere.
That is true, actually.
Like you take Asians to America, and even like I think Asians are like the one demographic in America who still is on average not more obese or more overweight than healthy.
Yeah, actually they aren't. They definitely aren't. They definitely stay pretty consistently same fat demographic. Like even if the diet changes, it's not like it's like.
And it's really fucking rare to see like turbo giga obese Asian guy.
Unless you're what they did for sumo was like have you ever seen a sumo's diet? It's fucking crazy,
they're
bro.
they're really autism about like how they eat.
Bro.
Like their meal timing and like they have like the windows that they eat and stuff like that. And yeah, it's
so much rice,
very
so much
intentional and
egg.
structured, and they have some sort of like macronutrient breakdown that they use by which to like accumulate as much adipose tissue as possible without accumulation of like arterial plaque and other shit that causes them to like die of the health issues that are usually related with being as huge as they are.
The question, maybe I should get into that. Maybe we should use the sumo diet for fat fucks here. Like you can say fat if you want. You just have to eat this.
That's essentially, I mean, the sumo diet and lifestyle is essentially like what all of the health at every size rhetoric people use as justification.
Oh, is it really?
Like, yeah, they're like, well, there's lots of fat people who are like healthy, and they like point to like sumo wrestlers who like have like an extremely regimented like exercise program, and like
it's like
they
sumo
have scheduled meals
and
like, all of this
powerlifters.
other stuff that's been developed through like 32 centuries of like traditional Japanese like eating tradition for this one specific sport that they've developed. And it's like, well, like unfortunately that's not an accurate representation of the average fat person. That's a very good representation of like your average extremely autistic fat person, but not.
Yeah, it's also like they get like, yeah, it's definitely like autistic, like because like, it's really not even like particularly big people that they fatten them up, they plump them up. You get like a Mongolian like bred like kind of like farm boy, and then you feed him rice and eggs till he fucking almost pops, and then you put him in the ring. But I think they're probably still smaller than a Walmart American.
They definitely don't like.
They're not that big. Some of them are.
There's something very different going on with the hormones, is all I'm gonna say, because the overall fat distribution of like sumo wrestlers compared to your Walmart American,
they look like powerlifters.
So ridiculous.
Sumo wrestlers look like American powerlifters.
Yeah, I mean they look still sort of sturdy.
Yeah,
and it's not necessarily because they have like overwhelming amounts of muscle, but it's like, I mean, like the stereotypical Walmart physique you see, where you have like a couple going through
the skinny legs and the gun.
You have the man who's like he has this enormous barrel chest and huge gut, and his arms, he has like somehow 12-inch biceps. And then his wife is like, she has these tiny little legs supporting this massive, massive torso, and her biceps are like 32 inches wide.
With the fat gun underneath.
You're just like, how was any of this possible? Like, it's such inhuman
it's definitely
fat distribution.
It's definitely a hormone thing, because it's like this is a very strange distribution of fat. It's not like something that, and like it's not even the same kind of fat that you get. Like, I don't know, you have people who are like similar weight that are not shaped that way. Like even in the US, Yeah. It's very strange.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I don't know, it's one of those fat distribution patterns that you don't see like a light example of. Like you don't see somebody who looks like that, but just to a lesser extent. It's something that I think only ever happens once you reach like a critical mass of hormonal disruption by like total accumulation of like ridiculous adipose tissue, where like you just have so
and your body
much,
just like explodes.
Like I literally think that you just have like extreme endocrine dysregulation by like a certain point of getting that fat, and it like causes this, because again, like if this was something,
actually that makes sense. It probably is that, because your pancreas and liver are probably fucked at that point.
Yeah, God knows what's going on with your thyroid. I mean, like,
your thyroid,
there's like the classic, the meme that everybody knows, the meme that literally like everybody from like the trans communities to the bodybuilders to the anorexic girls, like every single community online who knows anything about like hormones knows that adipose tissue has the highest concentration out of any tissue of the aromatase enzyme, which is the enzyme that converts testosterone into estrogen, or aromatizes testosterone into estrogen.
So that's that's the opposite. So like having high.
So if you have a lot of adipose fat tissue, then the net result is your free testosterone levels are going to tank, because it binds to your aromatase, and your estrogen levels are going to go up.
Yes. And then that's why
theoretically,
and that's why
that's like the armchair understanding.
Yes.
It's like a little more,
and that's how
it's a little more complex than that, but we don't really.
Then you get the anorexic, autistic chick, because it goes the opposite when you have less fat tissue, right?
Maybe.
Probably.
I mean, girls still usually have a pretty high level of body fat relative to, and that like.
Good point. Yeah.
I honestly,
like
I'm going to be totally real. I have no idea how the female endocrine system works in any capacity.
You're not a Peter. You haven't been reading fucking.
No,
Ray
like
Pete.
I have never. Well. So like even when I read the Pete stuff, if it says anything about women, my brain just shuts off.
I don't care anymore.
Because, right? Because I'm like I
do, however,
I don't have a uterus. This isn't applying to me.
Well, listen, I have to fix whatever fucking Zog Chow shit my girlfriend ends up being on. So I have to get my female nutrition maxing on. This is my new mental frontier, is making sure I can. And this is why I'm learning how to do tarot and astrology, so I can convert autism into a girl. So I'm going to learn all the female nutrition, and I'm going to use fucking star charts and tarot to make sure that they,
My understanding of all this stuff is basically that like my stance with health is you kind of have to do it all yourself.
You do.
Like at this point, I don't think. I mean, maybe if you have like $100 million and you can afford like the world's best endocrinologist to be like on call forever.
True.
Then maybe, I guess, who knows? But overall, I think you kind of have to learn like what problems you specifically have, and you have to read about those specifically. And like even something like trying to fix like your girlfriend or your daughter or your son or something, like I think that's kind of like.
Yeah,
it's really hard to do without like the direct feedback of you being the person who can sense the stuff in question, right?
That's
like
a good point.
If I can go and like something that I've noticed is like citrus fruits unfuck a lot of whatever weirdnesses that I have.
Citrus?
Yeah. So if I eat like a ton of citrus fruits, then
Luke is coming out as a scurvy.
Yeah, maybe it's
scurvy.
Just scurvy.
Fucking,
maybe I just need more
awareness.
Vitamin C. Maybe
we should do a scurvy.
Maybe there's something about the oil, because I eat the peels a lot. Also, I eat the peels quite frequently with like tangerines and stuff.
All right, this episode's gonna be called Scurvy Awareness.
Maybe
we're gonna start a foundation and then fucking rug our own charity, our own scurvy charity.
But I never could have like diagnosed this from the outside.
Yeah, definitely not. No. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like, especially like it is hard to give nutrition advice, but this is also why you can have so many nutrition grifters, because it is so personalized that You can basically say anything, and I'm sure there's someone.
Well, and in America, there's a lot of things that just like uniquely help everyone, right? Like 98% of Americans are potassium deficient. So
Yes.
this is the same thing with magnesium, but to a lesser extent. But if I go to basically any person and I recommend them to start eating foods that are either higher in potassium or supplementing potassium, then like they're going to feel better.
I never even consider. Wait, am I high? I'm Dominican.
You're probably potassium deficient because
I don't know. I'm Dominican. We eat a lot of bananas.
But so this is another meme. Everybody thinks of bananas when they think of potassium, but if you look at the content per calorie or the potassium content per calorie of a banana, it's actually like substantially lower than basically like every other food that's known as like a potassium.
Wait, so potassium, sodium, potassium. So it's you have to eat if you eat high amounts
like
of sodium
and potassium are on opposite sides of the ion
So if you
pumps,
eat
and then
high
you have
levels
calcium
of-
and magnesium are on the opposite sides.
So if you eat high levels of sodium, you probably have low potassium. Is that what it is, or is it the opposite?
No.
You eat low levels of
It's
sodium.
not necessarily that. I mean, there are some like weird second or third order effects that they have on each other's levels, but for the most part, like eating more sodium is probably not going to cause you to piss out more potassium. Eating more sodium is probably likely to actually keep you to retain more of the potassium.
Oh, then I'm probably fine there too. I eat a lot of salt.
But
I have to check it out.
Generally, like the historical ratio of sodium to potassium was something like 0.5 to like. Okay, which one did I even say first?
You said sodium first.
People typically ate a lot more potassium than sodium. That changed recently.
Yes, same thing with the magnesium, calcium thing. Like we used to have magnesium-rich environment, salt water, etc. Yeah. This is why everyone was mad at my vitamin D post because they were like, "Bro, everyone's gonna get hypercalcemia. We have too much calcium." Oh, bro, the fucking magnesium. Cultists, bro, you guys gotta chill. I lace my water with
every time you suggest taking vitamin D. Is some guy comes and says, "Oh, the vitamin K2 Mark 7 to make sure that you don't calcify your arteries and stuff." But like the only one demonstrated study that they've ever shown that to happen was like an egregious overdose where they gave people like
3 million. No, I have this one.
Like 400 times the traditionally taken dose of vitamin D, and they said,
the guy
seems that most of them had minor problems and some of them died. But
no, like one guy died. No, this was in my article. One guy died actually from other non-related issues. He died from like scurvy or some shit, or like a sepsis.
Scurvy.
No, sepsis. I said
scurvy.
I said scurvy before. Sepsis because of the conditions of the hospital. But most of them who got sick with hypercalcemia were given between like 1 point some odd million and like 3 million IUs a day, and that was a weird situation. There were only 10 people of like 100 or so people who were given like 1 million IUs that like got sick.
Yeah,
so it's like you're not
the
going to get sick.
majority of people who received such an egregious, like this wasn't even like an overdose that you could realistically ever do. This was an overdose of vitamin D that you would have to spend literally like $200 a day purchasing supplements just in order to like be able to even complete.
Yeah, I have these like really weird 50 KIU pills that are like hard to find, and you have to take 20 of those to get on the lower register of what they were given. So I have to take like 60, which is the entire bottle. 60 is the entire bottle of these fucking supplements per day. You're not going to do it. You're just not fucking doing it.
Mine I think are like 10K IU, and they're, I don't know, like $20 a bottle or something.
It's like 120 count. You probably
like
literally
60,
practically the entire box.
Yeah, like you're literally going to have to eat 2 of those in one day.
Yeah, you're not fucking doing it. Is the thing? Is like you're not.
This is like when everybody was like getting worried that people were going to kill themselves by overdosing on ivermectin.
Yeah, right.
And it was like, in order to overdose, you're literally going to have to go and like eat an entire like 12-ounce tube of like horse ointment. And I'm positive that somebody is going to do it, right?
Of course.
Like there's definitely going to be one person that does it, but also it might be one of those cases where like it's morally justifiable to allow this person to be removed from the market, right? Because they're not a rational actor.
Yeah, fuck them. They deserve to die.
And the market knows everything, and maybe capitalism should be allowed to work its magic on this person.
I do know, obviously, we need to increase our magnesium. I think the magnesium cultures are right. Magnesium, very important. We're all magnesium deficient, except for us, because we're drinking our magnesium-laced water.
Because literally, I come on vacation with like a multiple gram pill bottle filled of magnesium that I drink every day.
So I want to get, I don't like the pills for it, because I take so many pills already. I'm thinking of just starting eating chocolate regularly, but I don't even like chocolate. I like this water lacing.
Bro, you're going to have to eat so much chocolate.
No, if you get like 70% cacao, you have to eat like the whole bar.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you're gonna need, it's gonna need to be like 600 calories a day from chocolate.
I don't want to do that either. Yeah, I mean, like I can't get unless the pills are. Still need to get the pills because, like, in reality, I'm getting like maybe 10 each time I drink one of these bottles is like 10% maybe.
Yeah.
Of my daily because like I don't put like enough of magnesium because it starts to taste like fucking medicine, like really gross. Like it tastes like battery acid if I put like the entire bottle in there. So I don't do that. But having a nice little lace of it is not the worst thing.
Also, like I've noticed with magnesium specifically, it likes to be eaten with other things. Like if you have salt on its own, you don't really have this problem. If you have potassium on its own, doesn't really have this problem. If you have calcium on your own, not really an issue. But like with magnesium uniquely, if you have it on its own, it tends to make my stomach start flipping around and shit. Yeah.
I like to eat it with like it definitely or it gives me like weird like I started getting like
palpitations.
Spasms.
I'm sitting there wondering like, are my ion pumps like they're over pumping?
Like the
ion channels they've been filled and now we're moving the fluids around to places that fluids never needed to be and it's all over.
Exactly. Like they're just like fucking pumping iron over there. Pumping, I guess it'd be pumping sodium. Or no, pumping calcium.
Nobody knows what it's pumping anymore.
Some shit. It's
off the rails.
I don't know. It's just really hard. Magnesium is like really hard to eat your daily amount every day. It just
I don't know what is the American RDA?
400
milligrams.
Milligrams, yeah.
Okay, so like, and the American RDA, I assume, is like 1/3 of what like
you
probably need, right?
Yeah, almost.
Because we're really bad at this. Like America, if you compare the American recommended daily allowances of food or of minerals to like every other country, we're almost always like
way
50%. Yeah,
because we get scared. They get scared of like because of vitamin A overdoses used to happen because you can that happens pretty easily. People eat enough liver, take like there's like a toxicity level. Not really other ones. Vitamin A is the easiest to get the overdose on.
Yeah.
So I think that they learned that happened and then they freaked out about everything else. Now the question becomes, but like 400 milligrams, like unless you're living in like fucking Japan where there's basically seawater is in all your food, it is really fucking hard to. I mean, unless you take the big ass pill, but like, have you ever tried to get 400 milligrams from your food every day? It's like
it's damn near impossible.
So
well, okay. It's obviously not damn near impossible, but it's like damn near impossible while eating like an otherwise healthy diet, right? Because like you can do it very easily, but you're going to have to exclusively target foods that are like magnesium rich.
Yes.
So you're going to be going around like eating a bunch of fucking like pumpkin seeds all day.
Yeah, pumpkin seeds.
And you're not going to get anything else.
Spinach and fucking like salmon. So maybe it's salmon, some kind of fish. One of the fishes has a lot of
There's got to be some fish, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's just like
I know certainly that like oysters and the shellfish are very high magnesium, but I don't.
Oh, I love oysters.
They got magnesium and zinc. They're basically like a
horny factory.
Right.
Same with pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds have zinc and magnesium.
Theoretically,
because so they were saying this in fucking on Twitter. Oh, Marie was saying it.
I saw. I
She's like,
saw
black people, and I was like, yeah, because this one actually is real though. They're like, if you eat enough pumpkin seeds, you get it's like Viagra. That is actually true.
I've always felt that like, I don't know. I mean, pumpkin seeds definitely do that, but they also have some sort of a weird like.
It's hard to eat a lot of pumpkin seeds.
I can definitely do it, man. But they feel like the seed itself feels like some sort of trash, like PUFA energy.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't feel like I want to eat it. It's not like sunflower seeds feel good when you eat them. You're like, I should be eating this for some reason. Pumpkin seeds feel like it's unnatural.
Yeah, it's one of those seeds where it's like, I think this is a seed that was supposed to just be planted.
Yeah,
like, I don't think I was supposed to be munching on this shit.
Yeah, exactly. It tastes like a planted seed.
Yeah,
or like kind of like apple seeds. Where you're like, this isn't supposed to be eaten.
Yeah, and I don't know. I can't really describe that one super well.
No, I don't. I used to eat. So the other thing is, I eat seeds with the shells on. Which is a very
I don't eat shelled pumpkin seeds. The shell is always the most fun part. You eat it and then it goes through your intestines
and then
it abrades your intestinal wall and you get all the scar tissue that builds it up so that next time you're more robust and powerful.
I'm glad that you're also a psychopath because I try to explain to people I don't deshell my sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds and they're like, what's wrong with you? And then you get a nice fucking like.
So here's the real schizo test is when you get peanuts. Do you eat them with the shells on or off?
I don't even eat peanuts. I don't believe
Hypothetically, if I were to give you a peanut, would you eat it with the shell on or off?
I'd probably crack the peanut open just because I want to do that.
So
it's big enough that I could do it easily.
If they're salted in shell, I always eat them in the shell because it tastes so fucking good.
Well, that's why I do sunflower seeds.
But there's like a limit, right? It's like eating sour Skittles or something, where the extremely fibrous nature of the shell, when you eat enough of it, it like fucks up your mouth so bad.
Yes.
That, like there's a very finite limit where you just have to stop, or else you're gonna like abrade all of the soft palate tissue in your mouth, or get like straight down to the bone.
Yeah, no, I don't eat peanuts, but I feel like I just never found that nut fun. I like peanut butter. I'm just not a big fan of peanut nuts.
I like have I love peanuts, but I think they're a trash food, and so I don't eat them. But like peanuts are 100% like one of my most ridiculous, obscene, guilty pleasures. I had a tweet on it was on like my high school Twitter account. This was the only semi-viral tweet I ever made on my like 180 follower high school account. It was something about the peanut drawer, and I showed a picture of my desk where I had every drawer, like I had like 3 cubic meters of volume that was totally filled with peanut shells.
That is like your eggshells.
Yeah. It was like
your peanut shells.
And people were like, how much time did it take you to eat all of these peanuts? And the answer was like 3 days or something. Like it was just I was getting literally all of my calories from peanuts. It was when I read
mono food. You do like mono food. Which is very interesting.
Well, my dad had told me at that time something like, this guy discovered that peanuts have everything inside of them that the human body needs to live. And I was like, base. Base. Let me prove it. And I just ate only peanuts for like a week.
Did you get fucking like malnutrition?
No, I felt fine actually. I mean, I was always kind of like bloated because I think it's kind of a trash food, and like there's a lot of fiber, and it's like, it's Poofa City, bro.
It's definitely Poofa City.
Yeah. Poofa City, man.
I try to stay away from peanuts.
Legumes overall.
Listen, I am a Latino. I love legumes. I ate beans for the first.
I do too, man. I do too. I think
beans,
they fucking taste good, but they just make you feel like trash.
They do. Like I had beans yesterday, and I'm like, why did I do this to myself? I'm like,
do you remember when I did the retest of like veganism?
Oh yeah, and you ate only fucking like lentils.
Yeah, and I literally it feels like you're eating cardboard, right? Like it's the same as like chicken, where like if I eat beef,
I don't like chicken.
If I eat beef or if I eat like lamb or something, I feel like rejuvenated and recharged and better afterwards. If I eat chicken, I generally feel like the same. Like I ate and I'm like not like,
you know what's interesting?
And it was the same with the beans and the lentils and shit, where I would eat them and it would like I would.
You're satiated. You're not like satisfied.
Right, but I felt like I literally just ate like a mass clump of cardboard.
You know, this is really interesting because they always shill chicken. It's so healthy for you. You're fucking liars, bro.
Right. Like I would feel better if
you can eat duck and feel great afterwards.
Yeah.
You feel fucking like, oh my God, I should have eaten. Why didn't I eat this earlier? Or turkey, not so much. But duck.
Yeah, turkey.
Duck,
so this is what I think.
Turkey's better than chicken, but
turkey's definitely better than chicken. But I think a lot of it has to do with like the life cycle. So you know how with animals, if you eat the younger ones, you generally get like a lower micronutrient concentration because like an animal that's been raised eating whatever for like 20 years or something like that is going to have had a lot more nutrients flow through its body and get accumulated in its like fat and other tissues and stuff like that. Whereas like a chicken, which is literally raised from like egg to consumption within like a few weeks at this point. Like,
there's nothing in it but like corn.
Yeah.
It's fucking it's only eating corn for like 3 weeks and then you eat it.
And like maybe if we were to go and eat like some legitimately free range chicken that's been roaming around eating like grasshoppers and worms and shit for like 2 years, then it would be better. But just we're never going to buy a chicken like that because nobody would ever farm a chicken like that because it's so far from being profitable that it doesn't exist.
It's actually a really good point,
chicken.
actually. Yeah, there's no Yeah, it's just fucking filled with corn. It's a corn-filled chicken. That's why it feels like shit.
And
but like, you
whereas
can't really do that to a
turkeys,
cow.
like turkeys,
They free range. They free road.
a lot of turkeys are free range, but also they have to get older, right? Like we have specifically bred chickens so that like broilers can be created and they can go through the full life cycle in such an extremely. This is the other the argument against GMOs, right? Like this is the primary argument, and I mean there's a bajillion argument against GMOs. Actually, I'm totally misstating myself here. And like people can say, oh, like this was bad because they inserted like this weird like CRISPR gene into this, and it's going to give us all AIDS or something like that. But like the main compelling anti-GMO argument that I've always heard has been, okay, we engineered this food so that it grows a lot faster, which is great from like the perspective of giving us like macronutrient substance, but this also means that now that we're growing apples and pears in 1/10 of the amount of time as we traditionally did, they have much less time to slurp up nutrients from the earth, and the overall nutrient fruits used to have actual micronutrient content.
Also, the same thing. I was just about to say the same thing. This is like with yeast. This is why we have gluten intolerance now, because we do the yeast that like we use the artificial yeast for bread, and now it doesn't have enough time to like build the culture to break down the gluten in bread, and that's why people are like sensitive to it now.
Yeah.
This is the problem with all foods.
The problem with the problem with basically all foods is that there used to be like an inherent time barrier to their production, and we were like, well, I don't want to starve, so I want to make money by making this faster, so let's do it. But like we just assumed,
lost a lot in the process.
There's not necessarily going to be anything lost in the speeding up of this process. And it realistically wasn't until fairly recently where we were even able to like measure the effect of this, because I mean people have been trying to breed fruits, vegetables, corn, whatever, to grow faster ever since the dawn of humanity, right?
Yeah.
But like we haven't been able to measure magnesium content since the dawn of humanity.
Yes.
That's a pretty recent invention.
And now it's basically impossible for us to get enough magnesium, because there's also like there's a lot of magnesium in the atmosphere, a lot of it in our cruciferous vegetables, and all the meat and stuff was free range, so they were eating it. It's in their fat now, and then when we eat it, we can replenish that. But now that's why it's so fucking hard for me to get 400 milligrams of magnesium when it used to be like virtually trivial.
Like the organic content of the soil has been like totally BTFO to the point where like, how do you even, because before it was just, the soil has like a very large quantity of magnesium that gets slurped up by the plants when they grow.
And that's all gone now.
Right, yeah, and it's all gone. I mean, well, it's not all gone, but
it's
like,
largely gone.
The rate at which we rotate crops is not slow enough in order for the magnesium to get replenished by what I forget what it is that replenishes magnesium. I don't remember if it's like ash or I think ash is calcium. I might be wrong, but like there's various, like if you go and you get fertilizer and there's like the 3 numbers that they have.
I've never gotten fertilizer before. I assume the numbers were how to make the best bombs. That was like, this is a rated on a scale of 1 to 1,000, 356 bomb. This one's kind of good, but you could do better.
No, they have like I want to say it's like the potassium, the magnesium, and the calcium content.
It makes sense because you have to like pick which one has been depleted by which crop.
Yeah, or like which crop.
No, that's true. Yeah,
which crop likes.
Which crop likes
which one better? Yeah. Because there are different plants that like slurp more out.
This is
why crop rotation exists in the first place.
Yes, there you go.
You can't grow the same crop in the same soil because different crops will pull different things out. And if you grow like the crop that pulls out exclusively potassium from the soil, then like you won't be able to pour it back.
Listen here, commies. This was the point of Thanksgiving. This is what we used to fucking have. This was what you used to be taught in school before you were taught that Columbus was a fucking fascist. Is that the Indians, Native Americans, taught the white guy, the white man, how to do crop rotation. That was allegedly the whole point of the holiday. It was like everyone was excited that
we learned about crop rotation, and we learned about how to put a fish under the stalk.
Yes, the fish under the corn.
The meme fish under the corn.
Fish. There's no way that's real. It might be real.
That it does just sound really ridiculous because it's so like
when everyone got the same lesson about the meme
it's
fish.
Just so much. It's just so many fish.
Yeah,
it's just so many
fucking fish.
Yeah,
like it's like there's just not enough fucking like. There's just no way that they.
Like I'm sure it would work. Like I'm sure if you take any dead animal and you put it under any plant, it's going to make it grow a lot.
But you're going to grow
right?
a fucking town's worth of fish in the. No, you're not.
Right.
Just
it's
for
like
your crops.
What sort of tiny levels of Because like I'm thinking about like what 1 square acre of farmed corn has in terms of like the total number of stalks, and it's like this is like hundreds of fish, bro.
Yeah,
for 1 acre, this is like hundreds of fish.
Yeah, and you got
possible. It's possible you've got this much fish, but it seems
just
like
don't.
It seems like if somebody is farming this quantity of fish and they're sacrificing it to make their corn harvest better,
yeah, like you just eat the
like
fish.
This
Why
is
make the
right? Yeah, like this is a little stupid on the min-maxing frontier.
And this was the first red pill of our school. The first red pill was that, why would they just not eat the fish? I don't understand.
I remember literally sitting there in school and like thinking about like the caloric content in like one fish versus like 6 ears of corn and being like, they're basically equal. They're basically equal, and in the ways in which they're not equal, the fish is superior in every single one of them.
Literally, it's better to eat the fish. It's better to eat the fish 10 out of 10 times. Now, but like also fish you can get in the winter. It's not even like fish is. It's not even like they were like something that's like seasonal. You can ice fish.
There's always fish. They're always
in fact,
swimming.
It's easier to catch fish.
Around.
It's easier to catch fish in the winter. They're frozen in the fucking ice.
They're trapped. They've got nowhere to go.
You can unironically cut them
like
out.
hitting on women in the women's bathroom.
They can't go anywhere. So just pick the fish every time. I don't know what's wrong with you. This is how. And then they don't want you to question anything about anything in the future. So listen, if you didn't want us to question anything, you shouldn't have started off with the fucking fish and corn story.
The most unbelievable story of all time.
It just doesn't make sense. Maybe they ground up the fish and they fucking. I don't know.
That's even more ridiculous because then it's like
labor intensive to make.
Right. You're sitting there and you've got like half of the Indian population dedicated to like the processing of fish paste so that you can water your corn.
Was it the I don't know. Yeah, it's just dumb. Maybe it was the bones. I don't fucking know. It's just there's no universe.
I've commandeered the half of my girlfriend's pink lady apple that she has completely.
See, these are organic. They don't have the wax on them. What is she saying?
She's saying she accidentally bit the core.
Oh yeah, that happens.
I assumed you did it on purpose, and now that I know you've done it only by accident, I think you're sort of a pussy.
You gotta just do it. You just pull the seed out of your mouth. Sometimes you eat the seed. Fuck it, we vibe. But yeah, we've come full circle. We started with apples. And we're back to apples. Now we're in person.
This is the actual. We were just shitting on people who have podcast themes. Little did we know,
apples
we do
are
have
the
a
theme.
podcast theme, and it's apples.
Apples and fucking looking through forums for the best equipment.
Oh yeah,
of various types.
The best podcasting. This is a podcast about how to be the best podcast. I know that we're not really there yet, so maybe we're not the best sources.
In
on
a
the
way,
map. This is like this. We are currently the 300 follower account giving you posting advice right now.
We are
the 300 follower podcasting advice giving you podcasting advice.
But in 5 years when we blow up. And they look back on our footage, you'll be like, oh, that was so quaint. It's like when I was watching the Alex Jones documentary. They have his video recordings from like 25 years ago where he's a fucking nobody. And he's just taking videos of himself fucking yelling at people on the street. And little did we know, 25 years later, he has his own fucking media empire. Now, at the time, he was just a guy yelling on the corner of the street at people in Austin. And now he's back in Austin and he has a whole fucking network, right? So it's all about perspective. In 25 years, the Virgin Lucas podcast might be the Virgin Lucas cinematic universe.
The Virgin Lucas extended universe.
Oh my God, imagine if we had
the Marvel Virgin Lucas cinematic extended
Imagine a universe where we have like
I'm going to be represented by the Black Panther.
I like that. I think that'd be kind of fun universe if we had like a documentary. We started like funding movies and documentaries like A24 and started just making like weird fucking like bodybuilding documentaries and just fucking videos about growing apples and shit. It'd be so sick.
I think this is a documentary that I've wanted to see made for so long. And I think honestly, everybody would be interested in watching this. And nobody is going to make it because nobody has the low enough disgust response required. But see, everybody knows basically about like bodybuilding as a scene at this point. Like we've done enough bodybuilding documentaries. What people don't understand as a scene is, those weird like second world Russian guys who inject so much Synthol into just their biceps that they become like
yeah.
grotesque abominations.
Yes.
So like synthol is this stuff that it's like a mixture of like oil and alcohol that people inject into their muscles to, and it's so synthol is actually a branded product. It's very expensive.
Oh, it's branded. I didn't know that.
It is, and it's sold for topical use. So it's it is. It's one of those things where like you can sell research chemicals as long as you say they're not for human consumption. Synthol is not something that's sold intended to be injected, but just everybody who uses it does inject it. So they take it and they fill up these syringes with it and they inject it in their muscles. And part of the purpose is to fill up their muscles volumetrically and make them look bigger. The other part is the alcohol content in the synthol itself irritates your muscles so much that they become inflamed. And there's like sarcoplasmic muscle growth. Like you get permanent growth.
Oh, really?
Because you get so inflamed that it stretches shit out.
Oh, I didn't know that. I just knew that people start looking weird as fuck and their biceps are big.
So every professional bodybuilder basically uses Synthol. So there's a lot of people who, and if they don't use Synthol, they do something insane.
That explains this thing. I'm always like, how the fuck do they get their lats like look like fucking bulbs? You know what I mean? Those lower lats that like.
I don't necessarily know that that's like all Synthol that's responsible for that look, because Synthol, the way that most of them use it is like to amplify their existing thing. And it's only when you get these like total idiots who have no idea what they're doing, or they like develop some sort of extreme Russian dysmorphia where they go and they say, I just want the biggest biceps. And so you know that one, there's the one picture of the guy who did this with just his arms, and they're like purple and bulging, and he has these like 32-inch biceps, but like the rest of his body is completely normal as like a 150-pound man. Like he's totally just a normally shaped, normally proportioned, non-lifting 150-pound guy, except
huge
with these huge purple biceps that look like they're like infected and swollen.
How much pussy do you think he gets?
None.
No.
There's a picture of him standing to a like an overweight Asian woman with huge painted on eyebrows.
Nice.
That's like the funniest one that's always circulated. And it was reposted to like, what was the $1 Million Extreme like subreddit?
Yeah.
It was reposted to there with like a caption saying like, I have an Asian wife. And, like, and just
You fucking made it, dude. That's sick. And that would be a fun documentary. You just like follow. It's on the other side there. It might be too far.
Although, yeah, I don't think I'm going to make that. I think I'm just going to have to hold on to this.
You can just put it. Yeah, there you go. The fucking, that'd be kind of fun documentary. That is kind of a gross one. And also,
Well,
like the people would know that they're a fucking freak show. That's the other thing.
Yeah, they would have to know that they're a freak show. But like, I think following someone like this, and like, you wouldn't even have to necessarily ask them questions that would reveal that you think they're a freak show, but just say like, so what are you doing here? Like, so what do you think is this? Like, what is your goal with all of this? What is the sort of aesthetic ideal that you hold yourself to? How did you come to believe that this standard of beauty that you have was the one that you wanted to pursue? Like, you could ask totally neutral, good faith questions, and it would still be so fucking interesting, because you're just doing a deep dive onto like one of the most extremely mentally ill forms of male. And
People would love it.
Usually when you get to this sort of like weird body dysmorphia shit, it's girls, right? Like you find like the girls like removing their ribs to like have like the better hip to waist. And like, it's not really interesting, and we all just kind of feel bad. Like we're all just like, oh, like she looked at Instagram too long and now she has like extreme brain damage, right? Like there's no deeper story ever.
But with guys, you don't feel bad if it's a guy.
With guys, no. Like there's a very low level of pity when you see guys doing this sort of shit. And it's also just like, how does it even happen? Like, what happened to your brain?
Because there's only one. Like, also, it's always one part of your arm.
And with bodybuilders, it kind of makes sense, because there is at least like an aesthetic ideal of like a muscular guy that is pushed in, if not popular media, in like
movies,
comic books or movies, or like the bodybuilding and fitness community more generally. But like when you find one of these guys who just fixates on like their biceps, like that doesn't exist. Like there's no Captain Marvel who is like a twink with like 40-inch biceps, right?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
So like this is something that they themselves
just
have
like
created.
Want to like maybe they jerk off to their like own flex.
Well,
I don't know.
I think what has to happen is I think it's sort of like a like an anorexic girl's obsession with like the number on the scale. I think it turns into like numerical maxing, where the guy keeps measuring his biceps. Yeah. And then he's like,
that makes sense. It does. It's like an OCD type of fixation on the bicep.
But it gets exponentially more ridiculous because in order to gain, like, going from like 12 to 13 inches on your biceps is not very hard.
Yeah.
Going from 21 to 22 inches on your biceps,
extremely hard.
Like just take out how much. I think it's like a 4 times increase basically in the amount of volume that you need to add to do that.
Oh, that makes a good point. Yeah, because you have to add volume.
I think it's squared, right? Yeah, because like in order to increase the circumference, you have to increase the cross sectional area by like, I think it's the square of the radius. I mean, we're doing very off the cuff math here, and I'm not in my element.
Area
But
is pi r squared. So yeah,
the important thing is,
so it'd be like 4 times,
and obviously like
3 times the square of the radius.
13 to 12 to 21 to 20. It's more than. You guys get what I'm saying, though. It's going to be, you have to add a lot of fucking volume once you get to these sizes. And the only way that they have volume to add, because they're not like going out here and pumping iron to get the additional weight, is by injecting more fluid into their bicep. So you've got to be at some point sitting here with like a fucking 20 cc veterinary horse syringe stuck into your arm, pumping this oil in, right? And that's got to be one of the strangest documentary shots that's ever.
Oh, it's fucking dark.
Because we've seen people hooked up to like the crypto people hooked up to like IV bags with like drugs, and
I've seen that in person.
All of the vitamins and all of this stuff that they go to after they get their hangovers, and that's at this point pretty commonplace.
Every crypto guy does that.
That looks sane. That looks sane compared to 20 cc horse syringe into the bicep that's glowing purple.
Have you
already.
been there for when they get like when they all like the night after you party in like a Miami?
I've seen enough of their TikToks and like I'm.
Oh, they do it on TikTok. That's funny.
Yeah, like not of their of their like their Snapchats and shit.
Oh yeah,
because I'm friends with enough of them that they'll send.
Oh, I've never
me.
been on Snapchat with them. I don't have Snapchat.
They like to do their flexes for how they spent $9,000 on like their
IV bag
on their IV bag so that they can recover from their hangover. And it's like my approach has always been, I just don't drink.
So the thing, yeah,
this is the poor-brained approach, right? This is like the impoverished.
Well,
guy.
you have to pay for the appointment, and then it's like maybe like $5K or whatever for the appointment, and then you pay per bag. So that's when you're like, okay, I have to justify this $5K a fucking appointment. So I have to get all my homies after we party. After I paid $20,000 for a table in Miami to come over to my hotel, and they pay $300 a bag. So now that the person's there, and it's just like we all hang out and have hangovers.
Jeez.
Yes, so you see it. I'm always like, now, granted, apparently it works, but they're not even sure if it works. They're like, it's probably a placebo. It's almost certainly a placebo.
I've heard really up and down reports.
They don't think it works.